Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to another Myth or Truth episode. Today I have more myths to bust or truths to acknowledge. All of these come from your comments that you left in the comment section of these videos, so keep them coming. I love making the series and I hope you find it interesting and helpful too. Before we start, as always, this video and this entire series is sponsored by rePotme.com, who offers you everything you could possibly need to properly take care of your orchid, from potting mixes to pots, fertilizers, accessories, and everything in between. And not only for orchids, but also for other houseplants as well, such as cacti and succulents. So I'll link you to their website down below and also in the pinned comment. Feel free to check them out at any time, and I'll also share with you the products that I personally like to use and I think you're gonna like as well. Right, so with that said, let us continue our little Myth or Truth saga with a comment sent by Larissa. Myth or truth: to promote regrowth on a rootless orchid, you have to keep the top of the media moist. You know what? That is true. That is true. But not necessarily maybe why you would think. So that moisture there doesn't promote the orchid to produce roots. No, that comes on its own. The orchid has to, or usually is induced into producing roots by the lack of roots, first of all, and also by the season and environmental changes. Many orchids have a proper time to produce roots, like creation of new growth and so on and so forth. That's more of a hormonal chemical reaction. What moisture on the top of the medium does is create a proper environment for those really sensitive root tips to grow. I did notice in my experience that maintaining the humidity higher just around that root area makes the fresh roots that appear continuously grow. Sometimes if the air is very dry, those root tips tend to dry up, and sometimes they dry up so fast they don't even have time to branch. So that's really detrimental. And I find that it does actually support the growth of the roots. It doesn't really induce the roots. It promotes the proper growth of the roots, right? So if you have a rootless orchid, yeah, it absolutely helps to maintain that top a little bit more moist, spray a little bit of water. Definitely, I think the roots will have a much easier time and better time growing in a more humid environment. By the way, my co-host today is Dendrobium Orchids Hilo. They're still in bloom. Spoilers. Although I think this episode will be in November or December published. Oh, I'm filming this in September. So yeah, spoilers, not spoilers. I have other ones that are producing new buds. They're not dying. I'm so happy. So he's my co-host today. I love these guys. I love them to bits. Right, next up, we have a whole bunch of myth or truths. Let's get through them. Hey Danny, I got a couple of myths or truths. First, is Danny a vampire? I don't really like blood, so I don't think so. That's the main thing vampires do, right? But you know what? I might very well be related to some cruel Romanian ruler at some point. I don't know. I might very well be related to him. Who knows? Who knows? 2. Are Zygopetallums more susceptible to rotting? False, I wouldn't say that. I think they're just as susceptible as Oncidiums would be, I guess. Of course, you guys know I used to have a horrible experience with Zygopetallums, but not because of rotting necessarily. So I don't think they rot easier. 3. Are the most common Dendrobium Nobile found in stores hybrids that can do without the long winter rest? No. False. Sadly, I wish they were. I personally cannot grow Dendrobium nobiles in this climate. It's too hot. The summer is so long. Their growth is wacky. No, I can't. And sadly, no. The flower shop ones are just as bad as the species, I guess. So I'm looking forward to hybrids that don't really need that winter rest. I don't know if it's possible. One can dream. And 4, can Fusarium transfer through cut flower spikes, decorative containers, or supportive stakes for the flower spikes? Yes, I think they can. I'm not sure about the flower spikes though, because Fusarium typically is isolated in the root and rhizome area. But don't take my word for it, because I don't have that experience. And I don't think there is a lot of information. Just make sure you sterilize or at least clean the cutting tools between flowers or orchids in between them, no matter what you cut, just to be safe. Yes, decorative containers and supportive sticks, yes, I think you can transfer Fusarium because they are right there where the spores are. So definitely wash the decorative containers and the supportive sticks if you are reusing the supportive sticks, just to be safe. A great bunch of myth or truths. Thank you very much for sending them to me. Next up, from Colleen McDonald, myth: don't put falls in plastic. Hold on. Myth or truth: don't put phals in plastic pots because plastic kills plants. I am in shock and awe. Put your phals in a... Oh, okay, this is another one. There are two myths, I think, here. First of all, false. Okay, this is not in plastic, but I have been like growing my orchids in plastic pots for a decade. I think they would have died already. So yeah, that's absolutely false. That reminds me, oh, I forget her name. There was a YouTuber, an orchid YouTuber many years ago. She doesn't post Sally anymore. She was placing her orchids in plastic containers that were not food grade or something like that. And she got a comment at some point saying, oh, you're an orchid killer. Your orchids will get cancer or something. Alrighty then. No, don't worry about it. Plastic is safe generally for orchids unless it's a like weird type of a plastic. I don't even know if there's a weird type of plastic that can release some toxins that can affect orchids. Use food containers or proper pots and you should be fine. And then put your phals in a dark basement for a few weeks to give it a rest, which will force it to rebloom. You may have already addressed it, but the myth that Phalaenopsis go dormant need to be put to rest. Colleen, my darling, I feel you. Even before I started my YouTube channel, that Phalaenopsis going dormant thing, it was there. It's never gonna go away, sadly. But yeah, Phalaenopsis do not go dormant. Do not put them in a dark basement. Do not put them in the dark. They absolutely need light. If your basement has artificial light and you can maintain, let's say, that lower temperature there, yeah, absolutely, that's great. You can induce some flower spikes, but don't keep them in the dark. They do not take rests. They do not take dormancies, no matter what maybe other companies will tell you. It's not the case. They do not go dormant. Sometimes they might look like they don't do anything, but that's either because they're stressed, you're doing something wrong, or they are doing something, but you just don't see it. Maybe they're growing roots. So no, the whole dark basement idea, it's too spooky. Don't put them there. Another myth or truth: blue orchids and recently other colored orchids such as the light peach are created artificially. Absolutely true. They are created with some dye. I don't know if it's food dye. I did an experiment with some food dye. It worked to some extent. I didn't go too deep into it. I have a video on it. Yes, they are artificial. They are white Phalaenopsis and their next bloomings will progressively become whiter and whiter. And it's not only blue and peach. I've seen all sorts of colors. Blue with like pink veins and stuff now, green, all sorts of weird colors. You just know when you see them, they look fake. They don't even look that pretty, really. Sometimes the blue ones are not evenly blue. They're not real. If you like the look, sure, but you should know they're actually white and they will continue to bloom white. Right, next myth or truth from Rakashith. All fluffer, soft, thin-petaled Cattleyas. That's so cute. Fluffy Cattleya. Ah, that's so cute. I'm gonna use that. Okay, so thin-petaled Cattleyas last only for a few days, while waxy, glossy, stiff, hardy ones, Cattleya blooms last for a long time. That is false. No, it has nothing to do with the thickness of the petals. I do have waxy Cattleyas that don't last all that long. And I do have some more fluffy ones that, oh, that's so cute. I like it. I have fluffy Cattleyas that last a whole lot of time. The problem is those flowers are a little bit more sensitive to mechanical damage as well, and also to stuff being sprayed on them, even water. If you don't have a lot of ventilation and the air is not refreshed, you can have botrytis, which are those dark spots on the flowers. They are more prevalent on the softer and fluffier flowered cattleyas. But you know, if you manage to avoid all of these factors that can wilt the flowers, they should last just as long, don't worry. And fluffy cattleyas are very cute. Fluffy cats, fluffy kitties. I like both of them. I like fluffy cats and fluffy cattleyas. Myth or truth from Jennifer. If my orchid produces a root in a growth space between the leaves, at least 2 leaves down from the crown, it cannot produce flower spikes there. That is a great question, and it is false. Again, don't worry about it. Life finds a way. The flower spike will find a way. It will grow next to the roots, a little maybe wonky, a little higher than it should. It will find a way. Sometimes it can even skip that particular place and go to the next opening, and you'll say, oh, but I thought flower spikes should come from below 2 leaves, not 1 leaf. It actually does, but it probably didn't have some space there, or it reached into some obstacles and it took a shortcut. Did I make any sense? I think you know what I'm talking about. So no, don't worry, flower spikes will find a way. Do not remove the root, it's okay, let it be. They will manage. Orchids are very manageable, they're very resourceful, especially Phalaenopsis. Rakashit says, a Vanda orchid will put out a basil keiki if its crown is cut or manually removed, if it dries off, or if it rots. That is true. And that is true because I'm going to address another myth or truth you sent. It is true for most monopodials, actually. If the crown is damaged and you have a good stem underneath, a good axis, chances are that orchid will start to produce offshoots or basil keikis, and it will continue to grow. It will regenerate itself. So yeah, that is absolutely true. In very rare instances where maybe the problem is worse than you think, maybe that infection goes lower in the stem and nothing sprouts, especially untreated crown rot and definitely stem rot, sometimes it will affect the entire stem and you will not get keikis. But if you manage to take care of the infection or remove the infection or the infected part, or if you're just lucky, yes, the monopodial orchids usually create keikils. Basil keikis, keikils. That's a new word. They will produce keikils. Basil keikis. Keikils. I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt. I will write it down. I have a whole lot of sayings or stuff to put on t-shirts. I'm gonna put this down in my notes. Orchid keikils. And also sparkle the bark. Do you remember that? I didn't even notice it. Somebody pointed it out in a video. I was saying, I wanted to say sprinkle the bark, and I said sparkle the bark, which is just lovelier, isn't it? Okay. Next, myth or truth. People are also posting that garlic clove between each growth leaf will force budding. Again, it's false. We had an entire episode a few episodes ago about garlic. You guys had some great discussions in the comments section. I noticed them, very funny. Again, garlic cloves in between leaves will not make a flower spike. I'll give it to you though. If you give an orchid or Phalaenopsis orchid the cool down in the autumn, and then you put garlic cloves, it will make a flower spike, but not because of the garlic though. It's because of the cool down. So yeah, when it comes to the garlic stuff, you know how I feel about it. It belongs in food. Although after my taste, it doesn't even belong in food. Although a little bit of garlic in some dishes is nice, but like garlic as it is, no. That's why maybe I might be a vampire. Okay. Last myth or truth for today, and I went through the entire batch. Myth, I'm so happy about it. It took me 3 episodes. Myth or truth, you can grow orchids in cocoa husk. That is absolutely true. Cocoa husk is a very, very popular medium in many parts of the world. It is also very sustainable. There are some issues with it. I personally don't like it. First of all, you need to make sure it does not have salt. Coconuts usually come from coastal areas, I guess, close to beaches. And sometimes they have a high amount of salt in them. So if it's not already prepared, you must soak it and change the water for quite a lot of times. I think a safe coconut husk is the one that you use for lizards. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. I don't have lizards yet. I like lizards though. I like all animals. What am I talking about? But maybe one day I'll have a tiny lizard too. We'll see. So maybe you can go to the pet shop and buy something that is intended for reptiles. Maybe that one is already prepared and soaked. But yeah, it's a good medium. It just needs preparing. I used at some point one that I guess it wasn't all that well prepared because it did burn some of the roots of my orchids. This was a long time ago, before I came to Cyprus. It was in the balcony days. So if you don't remember, don't worry. It was like more than 7 years ago. I don't like it that much. I also don't like that it degrades faster for whatever reason. I don't know. It does retain water. And if I must, I will give it another go, if I must. Although I'm not a fan, but definitely you can use it. If you like it, if you find a good source, or if you prepare it right, it's great. Sure, some people will say it's a great medium, and I will have to agree. It wasn't great for me, but it is a great medium. Right, so that is the last Myth or Truth for today. Thank you so much for submitting all of these Myth or Truths. If this is posted in December, although no, let's see. Oh, I think it's gonna be November. I'm not gonna wish you Happy New Year or anything then. Right, so thank you so much for watching. Thank you, rePotme, for sponsoring yet another episode. And keep those myths or truths coming. And I hope you'll have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye.